Every year there are around 1 million amputations. That's 1 every 30 seconds. Not everyone can afford a bionic limb or even a prosthetic. And one scientist wants to change all that. I'm Emma Keeling here at Glasgow University in Scotland, where a team is developing a 3D printed prosthetic, including sensors, wrapped in electronic skin, and it's all powered by solar energy.
Six years ago, Corinne Hutton had her hands and feet amputated after suffering acute pneumonia and sepsis, which nearly killed her. Corinne had a bionic hand before having a double hand transplant in early 2019. Professor Andrew Hart was one of her surgeons.
To bend so that when you go to grab something...
This one's good, this one isn't. Guess that
Localise
now. And I had the nails clipped today, and it was really sore.
Yeah, you always go through a phase when the nerves are regrowing.
And I had to keep looking, thinking, is she really cutting me?
Yeah.
You know I don't feel anything, and then I thought, I feel too much, obviously, is that right?
When you did lose your hands, what was it that you missed the most?
Well, I'd learned to do so much with my stumps, if you like. I'd learned to, you know, carry on with life and do what I needed to do with them. But yeah, ultimately, there were just things that were beyond me. Anything that was small, like a zip or a lace. What I got annoyed about is not being able to touch and feel.
She set up the Finding Your Feet Foundation to support other amputees.
Anything to mirror as close as possible the human hands and what they do.
It would be a game changer.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just mind-blowing how much your hands do that I didn't respect and I didn't appreciate. I don't think anyone does until they're not there.
At Glasgow University, the Bendable Electronics and Sensory Tech Department is developing a prosthetic that will give amputees back their sense of touch. Professor Ravinder Dahiya's team has been developing a skin-like substance powered by a flexible energy source.
What's the difference between what you're doing here and what this is?
Well, this is the state-of-the-art prosthetic hand available in market today. Any amputee, they would like to regain the lost sensory feelings. I think it's good beginning, but the point I'm trying to make is the feeling part has to be there as well. And in this prosthetic hand, we are doing that. We are able to integrate sensors inside the 3D structure. We 3D print this, and this is soft. There are sensors in the structure itself.
So a big part of what you're doing is to keep the cost down. You know, what role does 3D printing play in that?
Well, 3D printing is, it allows the customization. That's actually a key part. And then after 6 months or 1 year, you need to replace a costly hand. That's actually going to be quite discouraging. So if you have a tool that leads to affordable hand, particularly in those conditions, that's very helpful. And that's where 3D printing comes in. And other advantages are, with 3D printing, you can design in an innovative way, you can embed sensors, you can embed electronics, everything inside the hand, and it makes it robust. So we are able to integrate on the hand, and then that gives you tactile feedback. So in a sense, how much pressure you are applying when you are grabbing an object, so that allows you to grab either soft object or hard object.
It sounds impressive, but will it work in the real world?
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Corinne, this is Professor Ravinder.
Hello, nice
to meet you. Thank you for having me.
We've got some very exciting stuff to show you. Shall we come over here? Because I want to see, did you bring your bionic hand with you?
I did. Would you like it?
Yeah, walk it on down.
It weighs a ton.
Okay, so the
Corinne's bionic hand is only 5 years old. The batteries are small but unreliable.
There is that too, but
it does weigh a ton, you're
it's
right.
quite weighty.
Wow. And how long would the charge last?
Awkward, sometimes it would last 5 minutes and other times it would last hours. And it would freeze in exactly the wrong moments when you're attached to something.
Right.
And suddenly the battery would go and you can't release from it.
So we got the first version here. It's you mentioned about energy being battery lasting 5 minutes, and there is no, I noted that there is no touch sensing tactile feedback.
No.
Try this one.
Are they more sensitive? It's my hands are not great.
The team is using solar cells in two different ways. They not only generate energy, they also function as touch sensors.
So when you cover a solar cell, it does not generate any energy. And that means there's a contact.
Okay.
So we are exploiting these, this simple thing.
Science. Fantastic.
We can't explain exactly how they're exploiting that science because it's currently the subject of a patent.
If it was an egg, would it crush it?
Well, it wouldn't, because you have the touch feedback also from the fingertips. So based on the amount of force you apply, the motor will stop. There's a closed loop system. It works in that way.
The solar cells are just one layer of an energy autonomous skin.
If you look at our own skin, you have different receptors, mechanoreceptors, receptors for temperature, for pain.
Okay.
And then there is a local computation taking place. You are not sending all the data to the brain.
No.
So some local processing takes place at various stages, and that's how our brain is able to handle large data. Skin is a good example for us. It's a computer. So that's the kind of model in a simple way. We start with, you have one layer which is computing, another layer which is electronics, then you have touch layer. Now between touch layer and the electronics, you may also add a solar layer, a energy layer. So that makes it all energy autonomous, computing,
Are you keeping
sensing,
up
all these things together.
I've gone ahead thinking how far this could go.
Let's go back a bit and break down the electronic skin layers. The game changer for Professor Ravinder's team was graphene, which is a single layer of graphite, 1 atom thick, and also the lightest, strongest conducting material of electricity ever discovered.
And that's one sample you see here, which is graphene is transferred on top of plastic, and it's flexible as well as transparent. It's highly conductive, which means it will need less power, which also connects to our other story that, energy autonomy.
So you don't want a battery, you don't have to have a battery connect.
If you have to plug in every now and then, it doesn't make sense, it's not convenient. So if you could have something that generates energy, that's interesting.
Using graphene, the team have developed a specially designed supercapacitor which can charge and discharge quickly. The charge is stored in the middle between two electrodes. On either side of those is graphite polyurethane composite, which is porous and lies next to the graphene sheet, which is the conductor of energy. A substrate holds it all in place. The supercapacitor layer covers the prosthetic and can deliver 2.5 volts harvested from integrated flexible solar cells that power the motors and the final graphene-based transparent touch-sensitive layer.
All you need is, for moving hand, you need quick power.
Yeah.
You don't require that power all the time.
Yeah.
So that quick power is good enough. You come from the supercapacitor. And it gives you touch feedback, tactile feedback, temperature feeling, pressure feeling, etc.
The camera has to see Corinne's face right now.
I'm following it. I'm just not quite believing it. It's incredible.
Another problem they're trying to solve is wounds on the skin caused by friction inside the prosthetic. They've developed an antibacterial nanofibre which coats the inside of the limb.
If you have a coating, prevents or accelerates the healing.
As well as prevents damage?
Yes.
Sorry, my mouth must be open the whole time. It's incredible, isn't it?
You looked pretty blown away in there. What do you think?
I think it was obvious from my face. So many interesting, incredible directions are going on, in science in general, but for me, prosthetically, and even the healing of the stumps and things, that's just incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible.
All this technology could be used in other areas such as robotics and health monitors. But perhaps the most amazing thing is Professor Ravinder thinks he can deliver his prosthetic to the market in a year at a cost of $200 per limb. The cost of current bionic limbs can run into the thousands.
So how do you think something like the prosthetic that they're developing, how would it change the life of an amputee?
Well, it's hard to say because I never had one that touched and fell. I only knew what it felt like not to. So I'm assuming that the more you can add these things in, the closer you're getting it to being like the human hand, and even what they were talking about is going beyond that, isn't it? And being superhuman. that's just incredible for me and the amputees that I work with, to not just help them feel human, but to actually make them feel better than human, is a message that we've been trying to promote for a while. It's incredible. Blown away, absolutely blown away. My head is really nipping.
Nipping?
Nipping. Very Glasgow.
That's a very Glasgow word.